So welcome to the Informed podcast of the Student News Association. I'm Natalie and I'm your host for the third episode. So in the last episode, we explored a topic more in the social category. We had members of the SNA from grades 9, 10, and 12 share their various high school experiences, struggles, and aspirations for the future and discovered the many similarities and differences between everyone's perspectives. In this episode, we'll be joining one of the largest conversations from 2019 and now continuing into 2020, and that is the talk on the current environmental situation at the international, national, and local scale. And to make this discussion even more interesting, we are joined by two special guests today, the presidents of the Eco Club, Umer and Danial. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Okay, so we're just going to keep this real chill. We're going to start with the current environmental situation on the world. So as you know, there are various situations happening across the world, from the Australian wildfires that are have record-breaking temperatures in Australia and months of severe drought, and it's fueled a series of massive bushfires, displacing people from their homes.
Rip the kangaroos.
Yes, rip the kangaroos and the koalas.
And the koalas.
Yeah. What do you call it? Their habitats and the ecology there is basically being severely destroyed. So do you think, what are your thoughts on that?
It's unfortunate to see such a nice and, according to Umer, cute species of the koala going habitually extinct. But I believe that's a part of the natural life cycle of a forest, that like wildfires do happen.
Do you know what's very interesting? This reminds me of like the first unit in grade 11 biology, which is biodiversity. And I remember spending a good 2 months on it, and that was like this topic that we talked the most about. But now looking at it, just makes so much sense. Like biodiversity is everything. And, through biodiversity, we understand how organisms interact with each other and, the importance and the reliance on certain organisms. And now with the Australian wildfires, we see all this biodiversity that was present in Australia. And Australia is known for, all the species of animals it has, whether it be
spiders.
Yeah, whether it be the creepy crawlies or the venomous snakes.
The Komodo dragons.
Yeah, it's
the wombats.
The wombats, all the cute animals and all the snakes. But yeah, it's sad to see all this biodiversity, just disappear. And I remember reading an article on it, and it stated that it would take, first of all, it's irreparable, right? Mm-hmm. And to create something, of normality would take hundreds and hundreds of years. And so it's saddening.
It's also very important for people to not base all their knowledge of the Australian wildfires off of Instagram. Because of course everyone's seen the Instagram stories about all these fake donations that are people like, if you make a repost, we'll donate $1 to the Australian wildfires. Instead of following those, I believe people should follow more reliable news articles, such as Umer mentioned the New York Times, the New York Post. Yeah. Those are news articles that will provide better information because they have proper research on the topic rather than just a kid who made an Instagram post.
That does remind me, like you were talking about like the fake donations and like whatnot, basically scams. That does remind me, you know how like at like it was kind of recently on Instagram, there's like a sudden surge of all these stories that people were posting for like, I think it was like 10 Tree, the Instagram account.
Yeah.
Where it's like every single they will plant a tree, or they donate a certain amount of money towards planting trees or whatnot. And then there was like, I think the start of that was like the start of a bunch more, and like some were proven to not have any sort of like kind of background information.
Another thing with that is, I believe like stuff like Tentry, even the people that actually do follow through with those, they can't see most of the posts because people have private accounts. So if you have a private account and you're reposting it, they're not able to see if you've reposted it or not. They won't get it popped up in their notifications or their sub box, whatever it will be. And
it's so funny because it's like, you reposting something or posting something on your story, which costs you nothing. In turn, you're getting, what they say, we're donating $5 or $10. It's just like
applying a tree.
Like the economics, like the money related to you reposting doesn't add up. It's like they're basically throwing money away, and it's like, where are they getting that money from in the first place? And that's kind of conflicting. So remember to fact check anything that you see on the internet, especially social media, because that's not the most reliable source of news.
It definitely isn't. For example, SixBuzz. I mean, SixBuzz is reputable-ish.
Emphasis on the ish.
Okay, but anyways, besides that, well, moving on to like, okay, so since we're on the topic of public opinion and all the social media stuff, let's move on to like the public opinions of people who share very controversial opinions of climate change. So, for example, everyone knows about flat earthers, people who believe that the Earth is flat, and that even though it's scientifically proven that the Earth is round, there are still people who very much believe in flat Earth. And so for climate change, there's a huge population similarly that believes that climate change is not real. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, to those tinfoil hat wearers, I mean, I don't know really what to say to them, because it's very, very obvious that climate change is real and that it is happening and is making a really major impact on our Earth.
Rip the koalas.
And like
January was the hottest January ever recorded in history. So like it's very evident that climate change is real and it is happening. It is, global warming is happening.
And
it's also led to an increase, like we mentioned. Like you mentioned earlier, the Australian bushfires are happening. Those are as severe because, and like the California wildfires before that,
and the St. John's for the recent like huge snowstorm.
Yeah, those are all clear examples of climate change and global warming.
And like, so when it comes to like flat earthers, or at least back in the day, like back in when we look at like when the origin of that belief, when it started, it also had to do with the fact that people hadn't discovered, or hadn't mapped out all of the Earth, and it's hard to visualize something that you haven't mapped out. But when you have something which is showing like direct consequences in front of you, such as the wildfires, and we all have access, or hopefully most of us do have access to reputable news sources, it's just concerning. It's like it's happening in front of you and you still don't believe in it. It just shows how misinformed, as well as the lack of knowledge within people and ignorance with people that live within our society. And I think it's our responsibility as informed citizens to, just
educate
spread the message, and educate.
And that's what our club hopes to do, is to push sustainability and environmental activism throughout our school.
Yeah, that's Eco Club for you.
What do you think is driving this sort of misinformation that's being spread to convince people of?
I think it's just a sad reality behind it. Like, no one wants to truly let the thought sink in that, the one Earth that we have is dying. And it's sad. It's a sad reality because you can't just stop your economic cycles. Like, you can't just stop using your car. You can't just stop, eating what you normally eat, even though the most harmful thing to global warming, the thing that adds up to global warming the most is our diets. The carbon footprint. Yeah, the carbon footprint related to our diets, and you just can't stop doing those things out of cold turkey. You can't just wake up one day and like, I'm gonna stop driving my car. And so I think the fact that we can't do too much about it, also with the harsh reality of what it potentially might lead to, I think that's why individuals often choose to ignore it, because as long as you don't believe in it, it isn't true.
And there's
misinformation that we talked about earlier on Instagram. Like, there's a lot of unreputable news sources that people do base their stuff off of. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
The mic can pick that up. It's like whispering doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But there's also like the like in terms of like a larger scale with like all the governments and the companies and the businesses, like the oil and gas industry and all that.
The major contributors to global warming.
And
it's important for us to try and reach out to those big companies, industries, and the governments, and that's exactly what Greta Thunberg is attempting to do, which is a very positive message, and it gives me hope that people do care about the environment.
She does have a really positive message, but the thing is, like, you gotta think, like, to what extent will these oil and gas industries and all these governments that are benefiting off of all these, even though it's like an issue of a global climate issue, they are having a great economic advantage in one aspect, the oil and gas industry. And so, just like for more of a factual example, we have the Amazon rainforest fire? Was it last year? And the Brazilian president, his actions were quite late to dealing with the fires.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he state that climate change isn't real? Or something along the lines of that?
Yeah, and he wouldn't be the only one, right?
He wouldn't be the only one. He was profiting off of the trees being burnt down, because I believe he was using the land for construction, or I think even it was for foresting certain resources or something like that.
It's so sad, really, that the leader of that country, the one that's burning up, is denying the fact that climate change does exist and it is destroying part of his country because it generates more money for him at the end of the day. Like, it is, the leaders are the ones that will start the change because they are the leaders. So if they don't acknowledge the fact that issues exist, the population of their country won't acknowledge either.
So this reminds me of a conversation that I had much earlier on in the year in politics. Of course, shout out to Miss West. But we're just talking about the fact that, you need a strong economy to have a future. But at the same time, what's the use of a strong economy if your future is threatened by global warming? Mm-hmm. And so it's like a paradox in the sense that if you were to stop everything, stop driving your car, stop, doing what you normally do, just to hope for this brighter future in which, global warming doesn't exist, you're technically also sacrificing that future. And in the exact opposite, in which you do nothing about it, you continue to live your life as is, you're also not going to have a future. And so I think, the answer lies in a balance of both. And what Greta Thunberg does, I love her message. However, the only conflict I've always had with it, it's releasing or relieving the self-responsibility and putting that responsibility on the large corporations, even though we as individuals need to realize that we're much stronger than we think we are, especially on the personal level. Because if we do all the small things that we can to help out, and every individual realizes that, this message of unity adds up on a larger scale when we look at the 7 billion individuals in the world, or, a third of that, which is actually living in urban populations, or at least by 2050.
And like, speaking of Greta Thunberg, and like, she's like started a lot of she's participated in a lot of the climate change movement and strikes and all that.
As well. She was there in Montreal.
Yes. Do you think this, like, with all these movements that she's driving, do you really think that for youth, that these youth movements are really going to make a difference?
I mean, yeah, it's important because change does start with us, because the youth are the leaders of the next generation. So like, the leaders now, once they go away, we're the ones that are going to be in power. And if she's promoting positive message, that leads to us promoting positive message, because we're all in the same age group and we all have the same mindset towards environmental sustainability, or I hope most of us do. And if we all believe in the same cause and we're all the leaders of the next generation, that next generation will be the ones that actually can do something to push for more environmental sustainability.
Yeah, and I think although she's spreading a really good message, she just sometimes needs to be careful with what she says. And I remember back in the Montreal March, the protests, in which she had an interview with Justin Trudeau. And after the interview with Trudeau, if you looked at the nano polls, Trudeau's rating actually fell quite hard, and that actually gave way to Scheer in overtaking Trudeau as the number one contestant. We all know how that turned out, but it was interesting because although you have a government right now which isn't doing all they can to prevent climate change or to help out by cutting down our carbon emissions, it's much more realistic and much better than the other options, right? On one side you have a government which wasn't willing to do anything, right? And often pulling out of the Kyoto Accord, out of the Paris Agreement. And then on the other side, you have a government which is willing to do everything, and as a result, sacrificing our economy. So I think you need to have a balance again. And while Justin Trudeau is far off from the balance, he's much closer than the other individuals. Yeah, and just seeing how much Greta Thunberg's words, hurt his rating, I think you just need to be a bit more careful, just like anyone else. We need to promote global peace and environmental sustainability in a positive light, not bringing down anyone, because we need everyone united. It's definitely a geopolitical issue that we all need to be united on.
The change is very evident, especially in the oil and gas sector. We've already seen banks such as Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, who are one of the biggest investment banks in the world. They've already started to cut out financing oil and gas companies which are drilling offshore. That's a huge step towards sustainability, because if they're not financing them, then they don't have enough resources to expand their business, which is hurting the environment. If a bank is willing to make these changes, which are the money hungry people, then I believe that a lot of people will follow in their footsteps, because these banks do dictate the world's economy.
So with the influence of all these youths, Greta Thunberg, she's 17, and not a lot of the light is shone on Greta Thunberg. We should also remember that there's a lot more youth activists out there.
Yeah, like all of us, all of you, anyone can be an ambassador for global peace, environmental peace too, environmental positivity.
That's why you motivate everyone to come out to our Eco Club meetings, because it is our responsibility to promote environmental sustainability within our school and environment, within our school and local community, and that will translate into maybe like older generations, such as our parents, will realize we're actually working towards a positive cause, so we will get more support and be able to build off of just a small school club.
So your mandate is environmental sustainability.
Yeah.
And what are your plans? Since it's a new year, a new school year, what are your plans on delivering this mandate to the school?
For Earth Week, we have a bunch of small initiatives planned out. We're going to be doing small activities during the lunch hour, as well as holding clothing drives throughout the week, just like we did for Waste Reduction Week in October, which was a great success.
And you wanna elaborate like the plans, because like some listeners might not be.
Okay, so we've been asked about this quite a bit, and so we're finally getting some progress done with the recycling system within our school. We've talked to admin, Mr. Gatehouse, or one of our teacher advisors. He's talked to admin, and we've looked at increasing the amount of recycling bins as well as the amount of waste bins that we can influence at the school and start at the school. Another initiative that we've looked at is a composting initiative or organic material initiative. So look out for those small things within this school year as well as the upcoming years.
If you guys don't know what Umer's talking about, the recycling issue we have is that currently our recycling system is paper only, and that rules out the possibility of any plastics or any other stuff that could be recycled. That's all going to our trash, which is leading to a huge pile of trash and not enough recycling from our school, and this is a major issue with our school. So we've been reached out by a lot of people, including the Student News Association members, to try and fix this problem. And since then, we've been working around the clock to get this problem fixed within our school, and it's taken a lot of work. We've had to talk to administration. They've been more than welcome to the idea of it happening. But the problem with that is kids at our school are very ignorant of recycling and what can be recycled and what cannot be recycled, because during one of our audits, which we do twice or 3 times a year for our eco-school certification, we realized that there's a lot of contamination within the recycling bins. Even with the paper-only policy, we just realized that people are throwing juice containers in, which are destroying the whole recycling.
Yeah, it's not even ignorant. I just think it's the lack of information, the lack of education. When you first learn how to recycle properly, it's back in grade 6 elementary school, and there isn't an emphasis on it. And I don't blame the individuals. I blame the lack of emphasis that our school system has placed on it, especially within our schools. I
think you can also take it to more of a at home, a level at home, because for a lot of the students at TLK are, I want to say immigrants or people of cultures that perhaps don't put too much of an emphasis on separating your garbage between your compost, your garbage, and your recycling.
Yeah.
And so since they're not doing this at home, even at school, they've grown up to not doing this at all. And so, as you said, there needs to be more of an education on this.
So we have a bunch of, I'd like to talk about our initiatives planned for the future of our club. In April, we're having Earth Week, and that we're going to be hosting various initiatives throughout the lunch, including a What Goes Where game in which there's going to be garbage and recycling, and kids will get a chance to decide where it would go.
Oh.
That'll promote and educating people about recycling.
Is there going to be a prize on whoever sorts correctly the most?
We have not decided on that, but it's more than likely that we will have a small incentive planned.
All right.
And then we'll also have an environmental Kahoot. As well, also planning on doing a scavenger hunt, which will also help kids further their education about the recycling. As well as, this is still in the works, we're still talking with administration. We're hoping to do a community cleanup during the week. And we're trying to go around the local community and clean up any garbage or trash that may be piled up outside.
That reminds me of elementary school days.
Yeah.
Those are some nice days.
And on Gordon Graydon days too, if you remember. We used to do small.
That's true. Oh, at Gordon Graydon. Yeah. Was there a prize at the end?
There was. It was donuts. And so look out for a possible donut prize for the class that gets the most waste collected. But yeah, there's definitely an incentive, and we hope that you guys are interested in helping make not only our school community a better place, but also the community around it.
And just to clarify, Earth Week, what's the dates for the Earth Week in April? Yeah,
there's often a huge confusion around that because of...
So it usually runs from April 16th to the April 22nd.
Oh, so it's near the end of April.
Near the end of April, midway through it, actually. So yeah.
So look out for it.
All right.
Also, we also have this major initiative planned, which is going to run after March break, hopefully, as a spring initiative, because as the Eco Club, we do love spring because flowers,
Yes.
sunshine, everything.
It's the perfect time. But tell me about your initiative. What is it?
We're gonna hope to do a courtyard renovation because, as you've seen at our school, the courtyard in front of our cafeteria is very run down and not kept up to date. So we're hoping to renovate that, color the benches, and like make it a place for kids to cool down after a very stressful day.
And that goes back to our message with Eco Club, because Eco Club's often painted as, individuals in Eco Club are often painted as tree huggers and, just basically everything surrounding the environment. But our goal with our Eco Club at the school was to basically make it a club which targeted mental health awareness while promoting a positive environment, whether that be, our school environment or the environment of our community at large. We believe that there's a direct correlation. And it's been proven that between the direct correlation between your environment and your mental state. And so we just want to promote mental health awareness through initiatives like this, in which we create an environment which promotes wellness.
And you know what? Like all this, like your mandate and your aspirations have really surprised me, and I'm like, I'm amazed. And so like I'm convinced that like if Eco Club goes on, it would be amazing to implement this sort of eco lifestyle within not only TLK students, but also just like within the Peel board, and eventually just spreading out towards like the entire youth.
It all starts at our school though, and like we do encourage everyone who's listening to the podcast to come out to at least one of our meetings to see what we actually do within the meetings. It's a very informal and fun meeting in which everyone has the same voice. It's not let out by the exec team all the time. Everyone has a voice. Everyone's given an equal chance to speak. It's a very informal and fun environment, and we encourage everyone to come out. Our meetings are held in room 233 every Thursday at 11:10.
Yeah, and just remember that change starts with you, right? It's not about these big companies. It's about what you can do at a personal level. Whether it's learning how to recycle properly, or learning how to become more aware of what's going around your community and in the world. And once you begin to change, you see that change is present in individuals around you. So just take the responsibility on yourself, and you'll see that over time, the message of environmental consciousness will be present throughout the global community.
All right, that sounds great. I'm looking forward to all the Eco Club plans. Any sort of other comments or interesting facts? I don't know, something you want to...
You guys could follow us on Instagram at TLK Eco Club. And we do have a very active Instagram account in which we do promote meetings and any initiatives that we have coming up in the future, as we do have a strong PR team within our club as well. Speaking of our PR team, we also encourage people to sign up for executive interviews, which will be hosted most likely end of May, start of June, in which we will be deciding who the executive committee will be for next year. And I'd like to remind everyone that an executive committee is very important for universities, because especially I'm encouraging the grade 11th to sign up for this, because it allows universities to look at you better and think of you as a better leader, as a stronger leader, if you have an executive position. And we also encourage all grades to try out for a sign up for the executive team spots, because we are hoping to have grade leaders next year, in which they will be promoting sustainability in each and every grade. Because right now our committee does not have grade leaders due to the lack of people that signed up, due to the miseducation about people. People did not really know about the club. But due to this year, we've gained a lot of publicity and traction. So we encourage everyone to come to sign up for the executive team, because then if we have grade leaders, we'll have people to manage every single grade, which will lead to more sustainability within our school. Yeah, and it's not exactly about the environment, but also you get to interact with great individuals and alike individuals, and you see that you grow as a person, you grow as a leader, and that's honestly the best thing you can take away from it if you can't take away anything else. It's just a nice environment, and promote a safe place for you to talk about whatever's on your mind related to the environment, and you won't be judged. So please do come by. Again, that's room 233 at 11:10 every Thursday.
Okay, and just to add on, since Eco Club, I'm just gonna add on for the Student News Association. We've also got an article written by our writers, Sadhna and Ayushka, just to put that in. If you guys are interested in looking and reading about the dark truth behind Canada's recycling system, which there is a lot, you guys should go check out our website, tlksna.wixsite. But yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been an honor.
It's been great to talk with you guys. And so that's our third episode.